it was a good opportunity to recharge my phone. So we're going to pick back up where we left off. Give me a moment to get my camera situated here on the tripod. We are trying something different today, which seems to be working. You can see our sewing area there. Perfect. Just look at this one more time. Make sure I stay in your range of vision. Yeah, we're trying a new orientation with our camera with the tripod hanging overhead so that hopefully you can get a better view of what I'm doing. And where we left off, we were in the process of pinning the bodice to the skirt. Let's go ahead and connect this bodice and the skirt together. Okay, so make sure that your sleeves are pulled back so you don't accidentally sew your sleeve into your waistline, right? That's one caveat here to watch for. And let's get this on our machine. Get ready to sew. That wasn't so hard. Let's go ahead and cut our threads. And then we'll remove our pins, and then let's see how we did. I'm really excited about combining the polka dots with the floral. I think it's going to be really pretty, especially when we add the red trim to it. Now, in hindsight, I think it would have been easier to finish the sleeve casing with the elastic before we sewed the sleeve on, but we always make it work. So that's what we're going to do. Wow, this is really looking nice, don't you think? Check this out. I kind of would love to have a dress that looks like this myself, sort of. Really think that's pretty. Let's see the back. So we're going to close this part with some Velcro, and we'll just kind of seam this over like this right here to smooth that edge off and make it finished, right? In fact, let's go ahead and do that. Let's do we're not going to add the Velcro just yet, but let's just go ahead and do a seam, smoothing off this edge, right? Finishing this edge so we have a nice finished edge on the back of the dress. Let's do that next. So to do that, I'm just going to take this and just put some tension on it, folding it over, right? We'll just pin it. That creates a nice smooth edge doing it that way. I really love this fabric together. I think it's beautiful. I really would love to have a dress that looks like this. We don't have any adult size patterns that are quite like this though, so we probably aren't going to do that. But it would be cool. Maybe I could combine this type of fabric together for a different style. I think if you had the bodice and the skirt, the two different fabric colors would be really nice, right? Let's see here. And I always find it easiest to position your pins so that you're sewing into the point. Okay, so you can see how we've pinned this right to have a nice finished edge. So let's go ahead and we'll start on this side. And be careful not to sew anything together that you don't want to sew together, right? It's one thing when you're working with small pieces of fabric, it's small sewing projects. It's super easy to accidentally sew something together that you didn't want to sew together. All right, let's get our pin out of the way. We'll go a little forward and a little backwards to tie off the seam. We're just sewing along the edge, right? This is going to end up having Velcro on both sides, but we're just finishing this edge so it has a nice look. Careful here as we come down not to accidentally sew the other side into this. Actually, we can just continue up. Let's think about that for a moment. So repositioning, let's just continue up. I think that's a great idea. Just make sure it's laying flat, right? Don't sew anything together you don't want to sew together. Pin out of the way. Careful not to poke ourselves. Don't need to run and get any band-aids at this point. Cut our threads. So you can see how that gives that a nice finished edge, right? So it'll look super nice when we add the Velcro to it. All right, the next part of this is I would like to go ahead and add the trim to the waistline and create a bow. I think red will create a nice dramatic, it's not like, it's more of a darker red. It's not really burgundy, it's not maroon, but it's a dark red. I think it'll look really elegant. What do you think? That color is kind of striking against the black polka dot and the dark gray floral print. So I think we're going to need about 20 inches here. So let's see here. Here's my tape measure. 21 inches. There's some of my elastic. Okay. Let's go with 21 inches. And so how I do this ribbon, I like to do it like this. See how that is? So what I do is I start by pinning it to both edges, right, like this. And we will just turn this over. And we pin it down. And we're going to position the ribbon where it's over both edges of the fabric. And we're just going to position it at the side seam. Just make sure you get that tucked in really good. That. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. We'll go to the side seam. And let's just trim this a little better. Check our orientation. You could press this, that would probably be a good idea. I also have a steamer if need be when I'm done, if I still have some wrinkles in places that I don't want them. But let's go ahead and position this. Feel how I did that. Okay. Right at the side seam where it's covering half at the top and the bottom fabric. And the next thing you're going to want to do is bring this up so that we're going to want to find the middle, right? Because we're going to create our waistband. Well, it's not really a waistband. It's going to be a decorative ribbon at the waistline. I think a tape measure is a good idea. Let's just measure and make sure we get this right. So we have an equal distance on both. The pleats would be another way. As you can tell, you can line it up with your pleats. Thinking that's right about the middle. Let's measure a little further. So we have about 3 inches and 3 inches. So 3 inches is the halfway point. Let's just go ahead and pin as we go. What we're going to do is we're going to seam up this side and back and up this side and back on both sides, right, to come to the center. And make sure our ribbon stays centered halfway over the two fabrics, or at least covering the two fabrics. Whoops. Oh, there's a pin down there someplace. Just make sure it's laying flat and pin it as we go, and then we'll verify our measurement of 3 inches on both sides. Try to keep that centered over the two types of fabric. There we go. And you can feel with your fingers underneath that it's flat. Just kind of feel your way through it. pin to right here. And you don't have to do it exactly in the center. You could make it come to an edge on the side, say if you wanted to side bow. So far I've been doing the center and I've liked how that's turned out. Just make sure they butt up next to each other, right? So they're lined up. And double check our measurement. So that's a little less than 3. And that's definitely 3. So we can actually come a little further this direction. There we go. I like that. So let's go ahead and switch to a red thread for our top stitch. And let's find the closest red I have. That looks pretty close. All right, let's switch that out for the black top thread. This is going to be so pretty. Oh my gosh. I just love these colors. I've really been trying to learn how to combine patterns together. And I think staying in the same color scheme, so this is kind of monotone, right? Works pretty well. So what I'm doing is I'm just showing you a simple way to make a bow. And honestly, I didn't really read the directions for this part of the pattern on how they're doing it. I do know they have a bow there. There's ties. Perhaps it's tied and sewed in, but I kind of like this way. Obviously, maybe the third time I've done it this way. Now let's just see if I can get this needle threaded. This thread's a little thicker. There we go. All right. Okay, so again, being careful not to sew on anything we don't want to sew on. So the T. Pull this up in here. Get this lined up. So to start, see if I can get this turned around where I can get it to work. Okay, what I want to do to start is I want to secure the sides. So I'm going to come vertical up the side, making sure not to sew the back of my dress into this ribbon. That's my goal here. Now I'm going to have to be really careful because this is thick, right? So let's remove the pin before we start to sew. Otherwise, we're just about guaranteed to break our needle. We'll be pushing it as we are. But we definitely want to secure the side of this ribbon so it doesn't fold up on us, right? That is working out excellent. All right, and now we're going to pivot. We're going to go this way. Again, making sure that we're not sewing the back of our dress into the waistline. And we're just going to sew right on the edge, as close to the edge as we can, to secure this ribbon to the waist. It's actually bias tape, but for our purposes, it's going to become a ribbon. Undo our pins as we go. gonna have to check the underside. I can hear the bobbin talking to me here, but we'll just check it once we get it in place. If need be, we can always sew over it again. All right, and then go backwards. Okay, pull this, cut our thread. Let's just take a look here. See if our stitch on the bottom meets our expectations. And actually everything looks good here underneath, so this is secured. Awesome. I'm just going to recheck this bottom thread. There we go. It is getting a little low, but I think we can finish this ribbon before we wind the bobbin. Actually, I have another bobbin that we can use too. Just get rid of all of our thread here. And let's get our dress back on. And we're going to do the bottom half of this part of ribbon. Secure it. Go backwards. Just go as close as you can to the edge of the ribbon. Very good. Cut our thread. Cut our other thread. Yeah, our seam looks a little different on the top. For some reason, the stitch is a little longer. I'm not really sure what caused that, so I'm probably going to go back over that again. We want a consistent stitch. Yeah, actually, I don't like how that looks. So, you know, let's do the side and the bottom edge of this, and then we'll come back and we'll do the top all at once. How's that sound? Let's see if we can get this lined up to do a vertical seam to attach the side of our ribbon. Being careful not to sew the back of our dress to our ribbon or our waistline. We want to make sure we catch all of this ribbon where it's folded over. Let's pull this pin out, making sure we catch the edge of that. Glasses on here. We want that cut edge of our ribbon underneath so that we don't have any fraying, right? And this is where that little purple thing would come in handy when we're pushing our fabric. Okay, very good. Let's pivot. And let's sew the bottom edge of our ribbon. Staying very close to the bottom edge and making sure we don't sew the bottom of the dress to the waistline. Okay, let's go ahead and cut our thread. remove our pins. And let's grab Mr. Rip. And this will be really easy to rip out real fast because I don't know what happened, what was going on with the machine to make those big long stitches, but we want a consistent stitch for the top and the bottom. Thankfully this is a big seam, so it's really easy to pull out, right? Look at that, that's coming out no problem. No idea what happened there, but that is not what we want for a finished look. Some of this will just pull out from the back. Sorry, hope I don't have my head in the way. You see all right? Be really careful not to mess up the ribbon and moving these threads, right? Actually, these little scissors are handy for this. Let's just come into the back of this so we can find our stitch. Pull this out. Well, I know this probably works too, right? There we go. Very good. All right. Okay. So I think we should go ahead and secure this again just to keep it nice and flat, right? Actually, we could even do it this way. In the direction that we're sewing, I find the easiest. So let's go ahead and do this side. Let's double check our bottom thread. You know, let's go ahead and change this out. Let's see, this will work a dark gray. Sometimes if your bobbin thread gets too low, you can cause stitch problems. At least it does for me anyway. Stay close to the edge of the ribbon. And we can go ahead and pull this pin out. We're just going to sew right up to butt up against this division. And now let's go this way. Just line it up right next to the edge where the middle is. And we'll go forward and then backwards to secure our seam. And let's cut our threads on the bottom. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create the bow in the middle. We're just going to fold this equal distance, right? Like that. And again, you could measure at this point to make sure you really have it equal distance if you'd like. Oops. Let's do that. So this side is about 2 inches. Let's go ahead and put a pin there to mark that spot. It's getting a little thick, so it's a little challenging to pin that. There we go. Oops. Well, bent that pin. All right. Now let's do the same thing on this side. Let's get this to be about 2 inches. Perfect. And pin this. And then for the very middle, all we'll do is once we sew along here and along here, we'll just go like this and we'll do a seam up the middle and it'll create that little fold there. So let's go ahead and do our little side seams right here on either side of our bow that we're creating. It's a little challenging getting this exactly. Just be very careful not to sew your back into your waistline once again. Take your time getting it positioned so that doesn't happen. All right, position your presser foot and your needle. Remove your pen because it'll be too thick to sew through. Keep my word on that. And go very slow so you don't break your needle. This is quite thick. Go backwards to tie off our seam. And forward again. And raise the needle, pull it out. Let's go ahead and cut our thread. Now we're going to flip it over. We're going to do the other side, making sure again that the back of our dress is not going to be caught in our seam. Remove the needle. To secure our seam, and forward again. And let's go ahead and cut our thread. threads. And let's pull this back and cut our threads on the back. One thing, if you're making dresses and doll clothes for small children, you don't want to have any loose threads because they can very easily get them caught around their finger, right? Which would not be good. So now we're going to position this so that our bow is pushed half and half, right? And then we're just going to do a seam down the middle. So let's just go ahead and get this positioned. You know, I should go ahead and pin it, right? It's a little thick, but let's just go ahead and pin it to make sure it holds the spot. Just even if it's a little bit, it doesn't even have to be all the way pinned. All right. Our dress positioned, make sure we're not going to catch the back of the dress in the seam. Remove the pin, place our presser foot, and just make sure our ribbon is positioned. Good. See how easy it was to create a very elegant little bow there? Super simple, right? So now we're ready to tackle these sleeves. We need to have a cuff to catch our elastic if we want to have the exact same style as the other dress, which we might as well, right? Plus I think that red trim will look really pretty on the sleeve too. All right, this part's going to be a little more difficult only because it would have been easier to have done this. You know, actually I think that looks really cute without adding any red there. You know what, let's just go ahead and leave this like this. We don't have to have every dress exactly the same. So let's go ahead and let's do our Velcro closure in the back. Yeah, I think that actually looks cute as is with just the one bow. So next we're going to position our Velcro, and this Velcro is about 5.5 inches long. Actually, it's closer to 7. We might have to trim it. I don't think we need 7 inches of Velcro here. Nope, we don't. Let's go ahead and trim this. And keep this part. You never know when you might need a little piece of Velcro for something. So let's decide which is going to be the top and which is going to be the bottom. I think that this will be the bottom. Let's go ahead and position this like this. We're just going to sew it on here, and might as well change our thread color again for the top thread. See if we can pin through this. It'll be a little challenging because it's thick. If we even just anchor it in a couple spots, it'll work. All right, let's get more of a tan colored thread. Kind of match the Velcro, right? Let's thread our needle. Let's give this a little snip. So we have a perfect edge thread, right? Thicker thread's a little more challenging. This does have a needle threader, but for some reason it's never really lined up right. There's probably some adjustment that could be made, but it's not that hard to just throw on a pair of glasses. All right. Once again, position this to be sure you're not sewing anything together that you don't want to sew together. We'll trim this thread while we're here. Just go right along the edge. And smooth this pin. Down to the bottom, just be careful you don't catch the skirt of your dress into this Velcro. And pivot. If you had black Velcro, that'd probably be better, but I have a bunch of cream colored Velcro, so that's what we're using, but it will be covered by the overlapping Velcro on the fabric of the dress. Let's just pivot one more time. Secure this really well. All right, very good. Now we need to add this top piece, right? Let's make sure we have it. Okay. So we're going to just come over to the other side. This, right? So this was on the outside. This is going to be, the top piece is going to be on the inside. We're going to want to get a little black bobbin thread for that as well, because we want to make sure that we're sewing a color that's not going to stand out, right? And make sure that your Velcro is just inside the edge so that it doesn't stick out, because we don't really want to look at that on that side of our dress. So we need to reposition this one a little. Make sure that stays that way. All the way down here. what did I do with that bobbin? Let's see. There it is. And change out our thread. Remove this bobbin. Get our black thread. Oops. I'm getting tired. Been doing this for a while, right? Start making mistakes. I like to hold my thread while I'm winding the bobbin just to make sure it goes on pretty evenly. But watch your finger, make sure you don't ever get your finger caught up in this, right? You don't want to rip your finger off or harm yourself in any way. I'm thankful to say I've never had any adverse thing happen doing this, but just be careful. Pay attention to what you're doing. And let's put our bobbin in. And let's thread our needle again. Let's just get rid of a couple of loose threads here. We want our work to look really finished, right? And sloppy. And let's go ahead and get our Velcro and our fabric positioned. Be careful not to sew anything into this that you don't want to sew into this. Uh-oh. All right. That's not happy sounding. Looks like we need to redo our bobbin. Let's try it again. And cut off our thread here. Right, hopefully that doesn't mean that we need to clean out the bobbin casing. It's possible. Let's just try it again. Yeah, that's what that sounds like. All right, my machine's talking back. Let me just show you how this is turning out. You can see how this Velcro is just going to come over like this. Right? I've got the pins on it now, so I can't close it super well, but I think this is pretty cute. I hope you agree with me and you like it. The only other thing that you could do here to finish this off is you could turn this hem under, right? That would be really nice. In fact, I think I'll do that. But for now, with my bobbin casing being a little bit of a pain, we're going to go ahead and conclude this video. I will come back with a short later and let you see what the dress looks like on the doll. Thanks again for taking the time to join us today. I hope you enjoyed sewing doll dresses with us. Oh, your grandma has a tomato for her needles. That's really cool. Hi, hey, thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed.